Hey guys, Marv from the Bad Teachers here, and I am super excited to bring to you our guest today. We've got a really great interview coming up for you. But before we get to that interview, okay, do me one favor. Go ahead and click that subscribe button down below. It really, really helps us out so we can keep bringing this awesome content to you. We've got awesome lessons our guests are going to share. We've shared some lessons on our website, and that's going to give you guys ideas. And also, we want you guys to bring ideas to us. Give us comments. Tell us what you think. Tell us what you're doing in the classroom. That really helps us because we're real teachers. You know, we want to learn and grow just as much as you guys do. So please, please, please help us out. So the interview, we've got an awesome guest. He's a longtime friend of mine. We went to high school together. We went to college together. And he's had an interesting path getting into teaching. He started out wanting to be a teacher, but then decided he wanted to transition into something else. He went into journalism. And he just now made his way back to teaching, which is super, super fascinating. And he's got an awesome background. So without further ado, let's get to the interview. Please welcome Matt Parris. All right, welcome to Matt Parris here. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good, man. How you doing, bud? Always good to see.
I know. I mean, I feel like I haven't seen you in forever, man. It's been too long.
Yeah, it's been what, a year since we've actually been able to hang out. You know.
Yeah, I know. Just living in two different places, it's tough, man. 2 hours makes a world of difference.
Yeah, well, you're not across the street anymore.
Yeah. Well, for those of you guys who are just here tuning in, we're here with my good longtime friend, Matt Parris. He's a teacher up in Myrtle Beach. He teaches Spanish, right?
Yep.
Spanish Espanol. 1 and 2?
Spanish 1 this semester. I'll teach Spanish 2 next semester. So, yeah.
Oh, man, that's awesome. Yeah. So how does it feel to be so you're 32, right?
Yep, 32.
A 32-year-old first-year teacher.
Man, I tell you, I've told a lot of people I don't know, and I mean, you knew me back then. I don't know that the Matt of, 10 years ago would have been able to do this, especially now. I think everything I've been through kind of over those years has almost prepared me for, especially this year, this being just a weird year for everybody. Kind of just being like, well, we're just gonna go with the flow, go with it. So, but I don't. It's been tough. I don't know that I would have been as able to do it back then as I am now. So It's weird how life kind of works out that way.
Yeah, like looking back on myself, back when I started, I was 23 years old. I just look and say, wow, they actually trusted me with children back then.
Yeah, whew, man.
Yeah, I still say that.
Didn't lose any on my watch, so.
Yeah. 0 injuries today.
So cool, man. Well, let me start you out with this question here, man. So tell me about like the first time that you ever thought to yourself, like, wow, I could be a teacher. Like this could be the job that I end up doing, man. And what kind of led you into, coming up with that decision?
Well, I mean, even back in high school when I started taking Spanish, I'm not a native speaker, but I started taking Spanish. I'm at the high school I teach at now. Actually, in the room I teach now, which is funny. I had my Spanish 1 class in the room I teach in now, which is really funny. I don't know. Some people get math, some people get science. I just picked up on it really easily. And one of my favorite things to do was to help my fellow students or my friends with their Spanish work because it was easy for me. I didn't realize at that point that's what the kind of basis of teaching is, helping someone through something you've learned how to do already. So I kind of took that on, and I think my Spanish 3 teacher, Miss Leggett, realized
I remember her.
that I had some, whatever you want to call it, ability to do that, and actually let me teach some of her lessons and stuff. She let me kind of get up in front of the class and see how I felt about doing it, because I was almost a senior by then, so deciding kind of what I wanted to do. And so she saw that in me, and it was kind of neat to get up there and have because you're nervous, you're in front of your peers and everything, but to kind of at the end for them to be like, wow, I actually learned something. And that was a feeling that really hasn't, you guys probably know, it doesn't really go away for someone who wants to be a teacher. That kind of joy.
It's like a drug.
Wow, they actually understood what I was getting across. It doesn't always happen, but it's nice when it does. And so I took that and I went to College of Charleston to be a teacher. had a lot of fun at College of Charleston. Made some decisions at College of Charleston, and
Didn't we
along the
all?
way is yeah. Well, it's funny because Marvin, you and I and our a couple of other friends started doing a radio show.
Oh
just
yeah,
late at
yeah.
night. Late at night, we were doing a radio show, and
What
kind
was
of
it, like
awoke that
10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night?
yeah, it was like 10 to midnight or something.
So you can only
like
imagine what
Thursday.
kind of radio show it was.
Yeah, we'd stop and
Intriguing.
get snacks and go in there and just hoot and holler, and it's
yeah.
a big old time. But honestly, that sort of awoke another side of me that I had, always been interested in, which was radio and news and broadcasting and all that stuff. And so I sort of, along the way, made a decision to change over and go in that direction. And I ended up transferring back up here to Coastal. I kept my Spanish degree program, and I fit in journalism as well. And long story short, spent the last about decade in radio and TV broadcasting, doing everything probably behind and in front of the camera. The whole time, though, what was interesting was that one of my main things I enjoyed doing was learning something completely so that I could show new people or other people how to do it and how to do it effectively, and say, hey, here's where I messed up in the past. Here's where you could avoid that in the future by doing this. Not realizing that that's still teaching. I was teaching the whole time, and so it's always been like my default position to go toward teaching. And anyway, long story short, the last few years I was a reporter out in the field and everything, and that was a good experience and fun, but just kind of led me back to it wasn't as fulfilling as I wanted it to be, and it led me back toward teaching and looking at ways I could maybe get back into that, and found the PACE program, and here I am. Kind of happened really quick that there was a job open at Socastee where I graduated from, and I was like, wow. Because I used to tell Miss Leggett back when she used to let me teach, I'm going to come back and take your job. Well, she just retired last year, and so I came back.
So
and
you
took
stole
her
it.
job. So it's pretty weird.
That's cool.
I don't know whatever you guys believe, but the world has a way of working out sometimes. So
It just falls into place sometimes. So then you touched on this, that in journalism, you had to do those teaching moments. You had those teaching moments. So are there any other like similarities between the journalism and the teaching that you've noticed? Like, what from journalism have you taken into teaching?
Well, obviously the communication part of it, being able to talk, and this is one of the things I say I'm not sure I would have been as good at or as comfortable at without journalism, was just the public speaking and communications part of it. I mean, in college, I was kind of outgoing guy, but it wasn't my strength, and it's certainly become more of that. But journalism too, for me, every day was fun, because every day you got to go out and become an expert for a day in something that you may or may not know as much about. And so I'm learning in order to tell other people about what I've just learned that day. So that's kind of how I approached it every single day, which made it more of a teaching aspect of, okay, what's this one part of this thing that is difficult to understand, or maybe a little tedious, or maybe a little in-depth that I could figure out a way to make simpler for, Joe Schmo watching the TV news. So that's kind of how I approached it. So yeah, I mean, like I said, teaching kind of went into every single part of what I do and do every day still. It's kind of just my default position. So
Right.
Yeah, is there some way, like, have you learned how to tell a story in the classroom, like, to kind of teach your students through the context?
Yeah, definitely storytelling and weaving things together. We did Dia de los Muertos, which is Day of the Dead, the other day, and I kind of went through and told the story of how the Spaniards came over and put their part into it, and you had the indigenous people over here and put their part into it, and luckily I have a few native speakers in my class that celebrated it as well, and so they were able to put their part in, and we folded it in. It's every day I'm kind of telling a story and kind of working through whatever we're learning with them and a story, and they're engaged. I'm always surprised how engaged they are with me, because you get up there and
storytelling is really important for teaching.
Yeah. I know Marvin's really good at it too, so that never surprised me, honestly. So
yeah, how does your skill with media help you in the classroom?
It's the funniest part is this year walking into this crazy situation where we were doing hybrid pretty much from the get-go, and approaching that issue of, all right, how in the world do I make sure that I'm teaching basically two classes at once effectively and able to talk and communicate with both online and the kids in class. And so as soon as, the first couple weeks of school and everyone's figuring out, especially this year when everyone was figuring out how do I make more space in my room, people started being like, oh, I've got a TV, I've got this or that, I need to get rid of, somebody come take it. And so I was able to get a big screen TV, I was able to get another projector and a couple other tables that I needed, and just kind of rigged up a way to have my computer and the projector and go onto the TV so that I had like 3 monitors and I could separate the Google Meet over here so I can see them. And then I have my phone as a camera on like a tripod. I mean, it seems more complicated than it is. And like my principal came in and was like, "Oh my gosh, this is amazing." And
well, that's like, what people do to me too.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I guess people our age kind of get a little bit more of the technology stuff, but that was kind of my default was, okay, all right, I got HDMI here, I got this thing here, I can kind of plug this in here. And so the background engineering, like early radio and TV stuff that I did kind of came back to help out in a moment. And
well, I don't think you've said this yet, but you used to run the boards at radio stations too, so you're like a sound engineer too, like you know how to do all that. And you were a DJ, a wedding DJ too, for a long time.
Nice.
Thank you. I try to block that part out. But I did,
Hey man, you DJ'd my sister's wedding, so
I did, yeah. Back in last part of high school and college, that's how I got put myself through. Well, I say put myself, but made some extra money on the side doing weddings and birthday parties, DJing and stuff. So I've always kind of been into the tech background. And when my first couple of things doing radio were operating boards, and when I was doing that, I was like, hey, show me how the rest of this works so that I can, because it'd be late at night and something goes wrong, and you got the engineers is 100 miles away, and you got to figure it out before it gets there, that kind of thing. So it's weird how everything kind of comes together. So.
Yeah, and that's an important thing too to touch on as a teacher, though, being a lifelong learner, showing that you're willing to learn and you're willing to, gather information and learn things from students too. I mean, just setting that model and that example for them, for sure.
Absolutely, and especially this year with all the Google stuff, like they'll be, hey, I did this way because this other way was hard. I'm like, that's fantastic. I love that. Yesterday there was a moment where, because I'm teaching from home this week because we had a situation in my household. I'm fine, but anyway, long story short, I'm teaching from home, and there was a part of one of the assignments yesterday where they, and I'm like, I'll be here right here. I'm working on something. If you have a question, just holler at me. I'm right here on the Google Meet, and I had turned my mic off, and they started working together off of one person's computer because they couldn't get something to work on somebody else's, and so they're like, y'all just want to do this together? And I just sat there and watched because they were just making it happen themselves. Nice. And it was
that's always a beautiful thing.
Yeah, it's awesome. So that stuff really makes me happy. So
right. Well, and I also want to touch on kind of the authenticity part of it too, because we were talking about storytelling earlier, and I was thinking about you've been to a lot of these Spanish speaking countries. You've been to South America. I know you've been to like Cuba and a lot of these places. And partially because of your family too. Your mom, does she still work with adoptions and stuff like that?
Yeah, she retired the last couple of years, but yeah, she worked for adoption, international adoption for, almost 30 years, or over 30 years. So, I studied. I went to Guatemala in 2008, and then went and lived in Medellin, Colombia, for a summer. All
right, Pablo.
Yeah. I actually lived in Medellin. Yeah, like right around the corner there from where his house was. So. Yeah, a lot of cool experience. Yeah, I've told them plenty about that. I actually already showed them my pictures from Havana, Cuba. We went there, my mom and I, a couple years ago. Before that was not allowed anymore. But hopefully that gets rectified soon so we can all go back.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, a lot of places like that. And yeah, being able to show them and tell them based on places you've been is so much more effective than, especially for a Spanish teacher, because the cool thing about Spanish, and I always tell this to them, is that it's not like, and I don't want to compare it to anybody else because I don't know, but algebra, you can't walk out in the world and do, slope intercept immediately or something. That's just not
Mhm.
applicable. You could walk down the street to the Mexican restaurant and go in there and talk Spanish to somebody. It's immediately
Mhm.
applicable.
Yeah, immediate
So
application.
knowing and understanding that
Yeah.
the world is a little bit smaller every time we talk
Right.
about it is really effective for them. And they like watching all the pictures and videos and stuff from places.
Well, and it helps them relate to other people too, I imagine too.
Yeah.
Just being more empathetic, with other cultures and stuff like that, which is something we really need in the world right now. It's so important. Especially
Yeah, absolutely.
considering these countries are our closest neighbors too. There's Spanish speaking people right around the corner.
Yeah, and helping them understand the effect that our country has had on this whole other, especially Latin America, over the last couple hundred years, and the reasons why it is the way it is. They hear, oh, Cuba's communist, socialist, or whatever. I'm like, well, you understand why that happened? Let me tell you a little bit why that happened.
Right.
And kind of closing those,
Yeah.
gaps in their knowledge
Right.
of that and understanding. And they're in high school and they'll learn more about it. But one of my favorite things, really, especially, and a challenge I've turned into almost a strength in our classes, is I have multiple native speakers in my classes. Most of them are Mexican, some are from different Latin American countries. But just being able to be like, hey, how do you say this? Or because we'll have different vocabulary and there may be 2 or 3 different ways to say
Almost
something. Well, how do you say that? Because one of them will be like, that's ridiculous. I don't say it that way. I'm like, well, somebody does. So
Right,
let's see, how
somewhere.
do you say this way? And they always really find that interesting. And it's kind of helped fold the kids who don't speak English as well into
Mhm.
our class and make more of a family environment in there. So it's pretty neat.
Yeah,
Wow,
that's awesome.
it's extraordinary.
So then one of the questions that is going to be kind of a reoccurring question that I think we want to ask is about we described what a bad teacher is. A bad teacher doesn't mean a bad educator. It means somebody who's doing something different in the classroom or trying something different. So we want to ask you, what do you think makes a bad teacher then?
Well, it's interesting because this being my first year amidst all this craziness with COVID and all this, I've had multiple people come up because you're always wondering, am I any good at this? Am I doing this correctly?
For sure. 100%.
In a normal year,
Mhm.
And so now I'm faced with all this stuff with the hybrid and all this stuff, and I'm like, I don't know if I'm doing this any good or not. And I think that is exactly what makes a bad teacher. I think someone who asks that question is already on their way to success, because it means that you care about getting it right. It means you care about the kids learning something from you. And I think that honesty and that sense of self and that comfort with even asking yourself that question is going to make you an effective teacher, because kids don't care what you know until they know that you care,
Oh,
so if you
100%,
care
yeah.
about if you care about yourself and you care about how you're coming across and you care about them learning, you're already a step ahead. So if you think you might be a bad teacher, you're probably the exact opposite. That's how I've been feeling about it. And I've had people tell me like my mentor teachers, my principal, being like, you're doing fine, dude. You're doing okay. Just hang in there, because I literally this week I had like an observation. I had all my slow stuff, and I'm just like, I'm terrible at this. I'm the worst ever. And thinking about that though, and knowing my kids popped up, when I had to do virtual the first time this week, they popped up on the Google Meet. They're all gathered around the computer like, are you okay? Like, we miss you so much. And I'm like, that's awesome. Well, just so you can tell if you've created an environment, because not all my kids, and then, you get a mixture of kids, but everyone gets along. Everyone has a good time in my class because, and Marv, me, like we kind of just put that out there. Like that's
right.
This is a place that you're welcome, regardless of who you are. So
yes.
I think creating that environment is automatically going to make things easier and better. So.
Well, one of the comparisons Cook always makes is teaching is kind of like being a salesman in a way, and you even wrote a recent article about that, where you're like, okay, first off, you have to establish that rapport. And if you don't establish the rapport, nobody's going to be interested in what you're trying to sell to them. In our case, we're selling them, knowledge or the ability to, gather that knowledge.
Our own experience.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And so bringing, like you said, you bring your own authentic self and you bring your authentic experiences, which is so important for, those kids. And what's fascinating, looking back at, the history of teaching, the earliest ways that we taught were through stories and through telling, telling stories. And being, if we don't do that, we're losing that authenticity, and, why should they care at that point?
Yeah, Matt.
Yeah,
Matt,
I mean, I think getting lost in the, I don't like to use the word pedagogy because it's dumb, but that's the word that we're
we
all
feel
like,
the same way,
That's
man.
what, yeah.
But if we get lost in that, like, all right, well, how are our students going to do on this test, or how are they going to do on this or that? And if you lose yourself in it, they're going to lose themselves in it too. And it's just, you got to keep that train moving forward of anything. Like, all right, we're going to be fine. I know this is a weird year. We're going to learn what we can. And I'm working with you, because if you work with me, like, and that's kind of just what I've been saying every day. Like, I'm here for you regardless. So that's about that.
Yeah, I know. Who do you think was your most transformative teacher? It doesn't have to have been in school. It could have been anywhere.
For sure, I would, at the top of that, I'd put my dad, who passed away a few years ago. He was a natural teacher himself, a natural salesman as well. Taught me a lot about how to connect with people and to respect people regardless of wherever they came from. But as far as school teachers, I had my 7th grade. He was a social studies / English teacher, Mr. Schreiber. He was a muscly little guy, and he had a big attitude, but he recognized, talent in me and encouraged me to go towards certain things as far as with, English and history and stuff. And he always gave SAT word tests, and I tried to do well on those for him and everything. I don't know. He just sticks out for me, and definitely Miss Leggett from high school as well, who encouraged me to.
I remember her too. I mean, she was a great
in general.
teacher. I mean, just like you said, had a lot of personality and brought that to the classroom. Tried to interact with the students. Yeah, I remember having a good time in her class for sure.
She also left me a lot of stuff because she was retiring and moving. She left me a ton of her old books.
That's awesome.
And stuff like that I could use, so that's much appreciated. My classroom looks a little more.
So now you're obligated to say she was transformative.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I was also a PACE teacher, and I know what the first year of teaching is like. So if you could just share a little about, is your first year of teaching what you expected it to be?
Yes, and absolutely not. I expect it to be uncomfortable. For me, like, I like getting to know something to the point that I have a system and I know what I'm doing next. And this year has not provided that for me. And I was ready for that, but it's always the uncomfortableness of not knowing exactly what's coming next or exactly what you're doing next.
Right.
Is different for me, but I'm trying to welcome that and enjoy it in a way, because I don't want it to be monotonous. I don't want it to be boring for sure. So I'm sort of trying to embrace that. I've gotten great support from my mentor teachers, from my principal, from my assistant principal is literally right across the hall from me. So I can jump over and ask her any questions I have anytime. She's helped me a lot this week with technology, trying to get the virtual stuff working while I'm working from home. So just everybody's willing to jump in and help. My Spanish department, there's a couple of teachers that are teaching Spanish 1. We get together once every week or so and go over where we are with lesson plans, where we are in the unit and whatnot. And even the district with their curriculum stuff has been so great. So even the parts I expected to be a little more uncomfortable than they were are not because of that support. Like I told you, I've had so many people being like, "You're fine, it's okay," and that really, even if you hear it a bunch of times and you tell yourself, "Okay, okay," it really does help. So it's been an adventure. But I'm very excited to continue and see what's next and to know a little more, into the next couple of years as well, because that teaching thing always kind of comes back. I want when I heard about you could be a mentor teacher later on, I'm like, oh, definitely want to do that, because I if anything, I've mapped this crazy year out. I can probably handle most other things. So yeah, it's been an interesting year, but fun. I'm enjoying it.
Well, how are your expectations? How are your expectations now? Now that you're, getting into this 10 years after your journalism career, right? How are they different from when you were originally like an education major, an education student? Like, were your expectations different coming into it later than when you were originally planning to come into it?
Well, I think I've told you this at some point before, Marv, but the reason I really got kind of jaded with
motorcycles.
The reason I the reason I got kind of, out of education to begin with was I remember teaching a lesson in one of my later classes at College of Charleston in Spanish, and it was a class for language majors. Not everyone was a Spanish person. There was French and German and other things in there. I taught the lesson, and I got like half credit because I didn't do like one of the parts that she wanted me to do this certain way. But everyone after the class was like, wow, I never knew that. I really learned that Spanish. That's cool. But I got a crappy grade on it because I didn't do it the way I was supposed to do it. And I was like, you know what, dude? This is ridiculous. So
you had an actually bad teacher.
Yeah, exactly. I had an actual bad teacher. But yeah, and so I just got so like frustrated with it. And so in college, I remember thinking that this is just going to be rudimentary and everything is going to have to follow these rules. And I don't want to teach public school because it's going to have to be exactly the way they say it is and no other way. And I don't know, because I did tutoring and stuff at College of Charleston. I did tutoring at Coastal. I had plenty of people tell me that the way I was teaching them was great and they were learning. And so to think that might have been hampered by the public school system sort of kept me away for a long time. So learning and hearing from other teachers along the way that it maybe necessarily wasn't always that way, or there's a way to do it your way, sort of brought me back between that and, getting over the journalism bug and whatnot and getting toward teaching. My expectations were definitely different going in, and knowing where I was going, especially once it was Socastee, and place I knew I was comfortable with and knew people there, I knew I would be
really brought that back home to you.
Yeah. Well, see, even imagine if you did go back into journalism, the set of skills you would now have as a teacher, you'd be even better at communicating your stories.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Well, and
absolutely.
What was I going to say? I just lost it.
That'll happen.
It's gone. Poof.
Exactly. Just popped out of my head. Oh, what I was going to say. So, yeah, I mean, like, it's so weird. And one thing that I always try to remember and think of as a teacher is, like, you never know, like, what little moment will have either, like, the most positive impact that you would never expect to have on someone. Or the most like negative impact. Just one little thing that you said. Like I had a kid the other day, and his teacher might have been joking for all I know. He might have just been kidding around or whatever. But this kid works at McDonald's, and the teacher told him like, "Oh, you're just going to work at McDonald's the rest of your life." Who knows whether he was being serious or whether he was joking about it. But that kid, I mean, he wasn't like upset and crying over it, but you could tell like it made him upset and it brought him down, and he didn't have anything good to say about that teacher, and that's probably one of the 2 or 3 things he'll remember about being in that class. You know?
You remember how everything when you're that age is just magnified. It just seems bigger anyway. And so, but they'll tell you. I mean, you can, and that's me and you guys, who are quote unquote bad teachers. That well, you and I, especially Marv, I know we were not the best students. I know we were in
terrible,
college. Like,
terrible students.
We did, not the best. But
we had a little too much fun.
At least you made it through. I didn't even make it through first time. So.
Yes, we made it through. Yes, but you know that they're going to tell you that you're going to feel, you're going to know what those kids are feeling. You can kind of sense it, and even if they say it's not a big deal, you can tell what's a big deal. And I think that's more than anything. Like they know that you care because if you're an empathetic person, you can tell what they're feeling or how they're feeling. Just either say, "Hey, man, let's forget that guy. He's an idiot." Like, and go back and tell a teacher I said he was an idiot. I don't care. Like,
exactly.
Whatever. So, I don't know. It's
well, and part of our job is not just to stuff their head full of content. It's to teach them how to be a person and how to be a good person. How to be a citizen. I think that's what we miss out on so much of our job is teaching them how to interact with the community and interact with the people around them. And
how to be a person. Yeah, how to interact with people. How to handle it when things don't go your way. All those things are important for sure.
Right. Well, so I know this year, it's still short, but I imagine you have some kind of bad teacher moment you can share with us today. It could be anything. It could be an actual bad teacher moment. It could be, just something funny that happened, something a kid told you. What do you got for us?
My second block is all freshmen, okay? And so they're super fun. I love them. They're hilarious. It's my honors kids. So they pick up on stuff really quickly, and they like to try and use it whenever they can. So sometimes they'll come in, and some of them have jobs and stuff at other places. So they'll talk to people who speak Spanish, and they'll come and be like, hey, so-and-so said this. What does this mean? And this little pretty blonde girl in the back who doesn't talk as much raises her hand and goes, Senor Parris, what's a verga? And if you know anything about Spanish, not a good word.
Nope.
No.
Like, especially not for a pretty little blonde girl to say in freshman year.
No say.
And
No say nada.
I was just like, no one else knows what it means. But by then, my bad teacher moment, I guess, was giving it away as bad as I did it, being like, like in my face like this. And so obviously they know it's a bad word now. So they beg me I don't get anything else done for the next like 15, 20 minutes because they are begging me to tell them what this word means. Like, guys, you all have, phones and stuff. Like, just
Google Translate, dog.
Yeah. Finally, I'm like, it's a gentleman's whatever. And then we move on. And they laugh about that for about 10 minutes. And so those are the fun little, but you know what? They're learning Spanish. And I can't
that's
really.
true. Yeah, they're learning.
Well, and you took that opportunity to make a relationship rather than to chastise somebody and reprimand them for it.
Yeah. And she didn't know what the word meant. I mean, because
you get mad.
There was some boy or something at her job that had told her to say it. So
ask your teacher what this is.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, I mean, they're learning Spanish. They're learning. They're talking to people. They're trying it out. I can't hate them on that. I can't hate that. So, but yeah, we had fun, and that was that.
Yeah. So we're trying to put together a Bad Teachers playlist on Spotify. So give us a song related to education, or like a learning process, or motivational, inspirational song.
Come on, Mr. Musician.
We
Let's
can
get
add
it.
to the
Oh man,
playlist.
I gotta think about this. I know I've been using a lot of Gloria Estefan this week to get them like going, but that's not really education related. It's more Hispanic related.
Could even be like the hook of the song or something, just like a phrase or a line.
I'd have to think about that one.
All right.
Let me get back to you on that one.
That's fine.
I'll get with you, Myra. I'll put one on there for you.
Yeah, we'll post it.
I want it to be good because
Yeah, we can't have any slack tunes on the Bad Teacher playlist.
No, we can't do that.
We're all music heads here.
Exactly.
Well, before we end the interview and everything, tell us what you've got going on in your life right now. Plug it out. Tell us anything, man. Give us your closing statements.
I'm still trying to improve with this teacher thing. I'm working through this teaching online thing for a couple more days, and then hopefully I can get back in the classroom. Got grades due for first quarter.
Oh yeah.
Getting through that. Pyro school's been down for 2 days. That's cool.
I know the struggle, man.
So yeah, the struggle is real. But hopefully once all this settles down, we can get back to playing some music. My buddy Davey and I play music around town, so we've been trying to squeeze in some practice here and there, and maybe get out to some bars and stuff, play soon enough. I don't know. Everything's seems to be ramping up again, so hopefully it doesn't last too long.
So if you're in the Myrtle Beach area, so Soldiers of Fortune.
Yeah, Soldiers of Fortune. Yeah, you can find us on Facebook, YouTube. We played House of Blues a couple years ago. We've played some other places that are. We have a good time. So this COVID stuff kind of a bummer. So hopefully we can be done with that soon enough.
So one of the things on our website is we want people to come and have something they can take back to their own classrooms. Do you have something you could share on the website that maybe somebody would be able to take? Something you've done that's been successful?
Lesson, technique.
Or just an overview?
I have some lesson plans I can probably send you guys as far as stuff that I've done. A lot of it is mixing, speaking out loud in class and then going online and trying an assignment. I've got some other assignments I've done, but it's really hard to teach Spanish doing hybrid. It's so hard because repetition and saying it in person out loud is so important. They've been good this week as far as participating and talking out loud, where I can hear them over the Google Meet and everything. But having them all virtual right now is tough. But yeah, I can send you guys some stuff.
Well, I remember when we spoke before the interview, you were talking about trying to get more native speakers to come on with the class and stuff like that.
Yeah, that is one thing I was doing. I have reached out to, I'm on a couple of groups on Facebook that just have a lot of people from all over the world on them. And I just like, well, let me use that. And I went on there and asked for a couple of people who would maybe volunteer to record like maybe a minute, minute and a half of them just talking
Sounds
real
awesome.
basic stuff, where I'm from, what I like to do, here's what my family is like and what we do at home, et cetera, et cetera. And I had a huge response. I've gotten like 10 videos back from people from all over the Spanish-speaking world. Chile. I got one from
Wow,
Puerto Rico
that's a great
today.
idea right there.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
and so they're real people, and they're talking to my students, because they say, "Hola, Saxi High School," and then so like they know, and so it's just very personalized, and they're talking about, I have a couple from Spain, and so I just want them to hear the different accents and hear the different, and know that there are different ways of speaking, from one country to another. So
Okay.
I haven't gotten to show them that yet, but I've gotten a bunch of them back, and I'm pretty excited about them. So it's kind of a unique thing that we're maybe going to be
That's
able to
awesome,
fold
man.
into at least our listening portion of learning Spanish. So,
Well, awesome, man. We really appreciate you coming on here with us. It's been an awesome time talking to you, and hopefully, we'll get this bad teacher movement going, get some more people on board. And I think what you shared today was awesome, man. We
Thank
really
you.
appreciate it.
Great to meet you, man. I hope we get to meet you sometime in person.
yeah, I would love that. It sounds good.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll hop down there and we can have some beers or something sometime soon when all this is settled down. All right.
Cool.
For sure, man.
Great.
All right, guys.
All right,
I
take
will,
it easy,
All
Matt.
right, man. Take it
yeah,
easy, man.
See you guys.
Hey guys, wasn't that an awesome interview? Matt is such a great guy. He's an awesome teacher, and he's got such a cool background. Coming from the journalism, point of view and background, he just has so much to bring to the table, and he's really trying to bring that authentic bad teacher background to the game. So, thanks for sticking around with us. Thanks for watching the interview. Do us a favor, like I said, subscribe so that we can start to build this bad teacher following, so that we can share with you our lessons and our ideas, and you can give us comments and give us feedback so we can grow and be better as well. Thanks for watching, guys. We really, really appreciate it.